Well, the simulation hypothesis, which is that we are currently living in a computer simulation, should be understood literally. It's not just in a metaphorical sense, whereby one could view the universe as a simulation, but literally we would be living in a simulation created by some advanced civilization in a computer that they have built in their universe. And everything we see and our brains themselves would just be parts of this simulation.
And if we are simulations, might we have been simulated for a purpose? Might our existence not be down to chance? Might there after all be a creator with a grand design, just as our ancestors believed?
The simulation argument is based on empirical considerations about the levels of computing power that would be available to an advanced civilization. Of course, it couldn't even be conceptualized before we had the concept of a computer. So it's really only in the last several decades that the hypothesis could even be entertained.
The creatures crawling across the board in the game of life are little more than blips of data. Nevertheless, they lend eerie support to the simulation hypothesis.
The rules of my life game are tiny, trivial things. And the rules, of the real universe are so hard that we've been trying to understand them for thousands of years, and, haven't finished yet by any means. So one can't really expect too much, but already these tiny, trivial laws exhibit interesting behavior. It proved an important point, which is that a system like this could have some of the properties of the real universe. So in a way, its design was copied, but in a very trivial way, from real-life biology. And so it's rather nice that, correspondingly, it became a kind of artificial biology.
We can't be certain to what extent the actual laws governing the natural world are similar to those in the game of life. We do know that the laws governing the natural world are simple. We can write them down in simple equations. We can program computers to simulate them. And from great simplicity, we derive immense complexity.
And if our existence is inside a simulation, are we real at all?
Speculations about the nature of reality and whether it might be an illusion or a dream goes back for hundreds of years, for thousands of years. Philosophers have been pondering these questions. If we are in a simulation, does that mean that nothing is real? I think a better way of viewing it is that it would mean that reality is something slightly different than we thought. For most practical intents and purposes, you would still behave as you would do anyway.
We have no reason to get depressed by sort of philosophical implications of these things, because, the everyday aspects of life are always going to feel the same, regardless of whether we actually have free will or not, regardless of whether the universe is going to end in a big rip or a big crunch, And I think for all the thinking we humans like to do about the big things, what really, really gets to us emotionally are the everyday little things. And they are what they are.
If we are a simulation, then in the ways that matter to us, we are real enough. Whatever force has guided our creation, mathematical or intelligent, it has constructed from simple atoms a creature capable of thinking beyond the limits of physical investigation.
these kinds of arguments show at the same time the limitations to the reach of the human intellect, in that we're discovering how our little corner of the world might indeed just be a small corner of a vastly bigger world than we never imagined. And that we might never, even in principle, be able to reach out and look at the other parts. And at the same time, these arguments also emphasize the astounding reach of the human intellect, in that we can begin to formulate theories and hypotheses that extend way beyond the world around us that we were evolved to cope with. How many lions entered the cave? Will it rain later this afternoon? What does that person think of me? These kind of very down-to-earth issues that our brain evolved, but it turns out that they can be used to begin to grapple with these fundamental questions of existence and the nature of the world.
In searching for an alternative explanation to the religious accounts of our creation, cosmologists have uncovered a possibility that seems incredibly similar. An all-powerful, all-knowing, super-intelligent being. An entity whose motives are unfathomable and whose existence is unprovable.
It's very important for us physicists to not dismiss ideas just because they're weird. Because if we did, we would have already dismissed atoms, black holes, and all sorts of other marvelous things. And actually, when you ask a basic question about the nature of reality, don't you expect an answer which is a bit weird? I think anything but weird would be a big letdown. And so frankly, I think, let's just accept that the universe is weird and view that as part of its charm.
There's no particular reason why our human brain should have evolved just far enough to be able to assimilate the deepest levels of reality. What is amazing is to be able to make so much sense as we have of the external world. I believe when the history of science is written, then what's been discovered about our universe in the last decade or two will be one of the most exciting chapters. But the key question, of course, is what we still don't know, and that is the challenge for the coming century.
Here are some of the rules that we may know while we are still in the matrix. They are the most necessary for knowing the basics, which can help us increase our frequency, connect to our source self, and subsequently access the rest of the knowledge within us. 1. No judgment. Judgment is not for source players. When you judge anything in this game, you judge yourself, because this whole universe is you. Who do you blame? Why criticize? What to condemn? It's only you, me, us. No judgment. 2. No orgasm. It should be remembered that before the game's victory, orgasm is strictly not allowed for source players. After the game's victory, a source player is able to have a certain orgasm and still achieve inner alchemy, which is not the case before the game is won. But be aware that orgasm is one of the most energy draining in this game. 3. No forgiveness. Lack of forgiveness is also among the most energy draining for source players. A source player must instantly forgive and forget. In the event that a source player does not forgive, the player will continue to lose energy from their reserve tank until they manage to remove that attachment. 4. Living in the present. I would say this rule is simple to say, but among the most difficult. With the Matrix pumping millions of thoughts into our mind every minute of our lives, strength of mind is needed for a source player to maintain focus at all time. The trick is this. Most of the thoughts are not our own, but the attention is ours. Make sure you direct your attention where you want to, not where your thoughts want to take you. It is a matter of practice. 5. No alcohol. Source players should not consume alcohol of any kind. It doesn't matter whether it's beer, wine or spirits, etc. Source players should not consume one. 6. No drugs. Source players should avoid any type of recreational drug. It is a rule of the game and no other attachment to this rule like moral beliefs. Just like recreational drugs, players should not smoke. Again, this is a rule and not related to any health impact that smoking can cause as it is believed. Everything is good, but not everything is good for you as a source player. You now know the truth about the rules of the game. What you do is up to you. You can do whatever you want in this game because you are the source, you are the universe. But remember that when you don't play by the rules of your game, you lose energy. Trigger consent harvest, you pay for it, and you pay a lot. You need your energy to navigate this game. The best life you can have will depend on how much energy you have in your reserve tank. And you can't have enough energy when your reserve tank is constantly being emptied due to the way you are playing against the rules of the game. Good luck.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was... Look again. Freeze it. This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one.
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them. Someone. I won't lie to you, Neo. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed. Why? I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.